from the Crypt.
I'm extremely interested in Blockstack in particular because Manib Ali and Ryan Shea have done extensive research into distributed networks and the whole. I mean, they're trying. If you don't know about Blockstack, they're basically trying to make the decentralized internet that was talked about in the last season of Silicon Valley happen to a certain extent.
Yeah, it was actually it was eerily close, but it's funny. Blockstack is super interesting. I could build for example, a decentralized Twitter. And you could choose to store your data for my decentralized Twitter interface. You could store it on your personal computer or your external hard drive or Dropbox or somewhere else. Leave it internet connected, and it'll be accessed. And Nate here could code up a different client, for decentralized Twitter, and you could use his client. You could use my client. It's pretty interesting. I think that it'll be interesting to see the apps that come out of this. I think they also have a pretty interesting governance model where they're, putting bounties. They're saying, hey, we want to see this app built in a decentralized way. The best person to build this app, we'll give them a reward of some sort.
Yeah, they did that with a bunch of portfolio tracking apps.
Yep. I hacked on it for a little bit. It was pretty interesting just to try out the platform.
How is it developing on top of Blockstack?
It's cool. I mean, it's actually just like developing any sort of web application.
Yeah, they're interacting with Node.js, right?
Yeah. I used their JavaScript library, and it was you just sort of call blockstack.get whatever, and you can access the data that you have in your decentralized Dropbox storage, and it was cool. It was very, very, very cool. I was pretty impressed. Manib and Ryan are both blow me away, with how smart they are.
Yeah, they're OGs, and for those of you that don't know, Manib and Ryan, the founders of Blockstack, they actually worked on an altcoin before, Blockstack Namecoin, and they were two of the first to learn about the limitations of these blockchains, specifically around proof of work and SHA-256 algorithms specifically.
Yeah, so I think that Blockstack is very interesting. They finally launched a token sale, after sort of long awaited.
We couldn't participate here in New York State.
And they have some of the best venture investors in the world. I think that I would bucket them along with what I see as the protocol coins, where they're trying to create some sort of new paradigm for building applications. I think that ultimately most of the next generation of applications that come out and get sort of mainstream adoption, especially with a lot of the issues that we're seeing around Facebook and Google and some of these large companies around data and how much data we give them. I think that most of those will be decentralized, or at least decentralized in some form. They might be optionally decentralized.
So let's dive into this. How would a structure like Blockstack differ from Facebook? So right now, Facebook, Google, they hold all of our data. We are products.
Yes. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product, right?
Yeah.
In the case of Facebook, you are using the product. You are the product. They take all of you. It's actually super creepy. Sometimes I'm just talking out loud.
Yes.
And Facebook has denied this a bunch of times.
Spotify does it. I'm certain.
I'm 100% sure that both Facebook and Spotify do this. They're the mics are on. I'm talking about Cheez-Its. I'm talking about Cheez-Its. I go on my Instagram feed, boom, ad of Cheez-Its. Yeah, how does that happen?
You know what? I don't know if I don't think
I've listened to one thing in the past 2 minutes. I've been stuck doing work shit.
But no.
That's why I'm in the room, but we'll listen to it. We're not we'll get it done.
But I'm saying we've been talking about hair products here, certain hair products, and I've been getting ads served to me. I've never typed them into my computer. I've never done anything. We've just been talking about them, and I've been getting ads served to me on Instagram for these certain products.
Of course, dude, we know that already. We've known that. There was a fucking thing on Reddit a couple months ago where a guy was like, "I live in an apartment building. I don't need a washing machine." Then he went in the other room and started to talk about man, I need a new washing machine. I need a new washing machine, and all these washing machines started to retarget it. Yeah. That's 100% a thing. That's a thing. I don't want to hurt
Does that creep you out
feelings.
At all?
What?
Does that creep you out?
Of course it creeps me out, but it's also it's too. I look at it two ways though. It's there's a lot of times I'm lazy and don't want to sign up for shit, and I just hit the Facebook button, and I'm just I'm lazy, and I understand the trade off. There's times where I don't want to sign up for stuff, and I'm just hit it, and that's the trade off.
That complacency is going to lead us to Black Mirror.
What? We're going to get both of these things, I think, solved over time once the UX gets better. once the user experience of like some of these decentralized identity systems gets really good, and we can actually, do that, it's going to be.
I don't know if it will lead to Black Mirror though, because like, well, at least not for me. Like, I don't even care about like, I use Facebook since I work in advertising to see what they're trying to target me with and to see what they're doing. Other than that, like I use it as like, okay, Facebook's doing X, Y, and Z. How can I bring that to the publisher world? Other than that, I don't fucking care about Instagram or like, I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. Like I don't use that stuff really. So it's like, I don't know. It doesn't really do much for me. It doesn't like the idea of like that. Like I've listened to the guy from Social Capital. I'm not gonna be able to say his name. Like the dopamine you get from that, like that doesn't really do anything for me. Like I don't like ever. It never really did. Like I use Twitter because Twitter's the best news source ever created. Like other than that, like I don't know. It doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like I
if there's stupid, if there's stupid people it does it for, that's on them, man. It doesn't do it for me. I don't give a shit about like. I mean, we got motherfuckers in Barstool every day like. Just hit 80,000 followers. Never thought this would happen. Like, who cares? Like, I don't care. I don't care if I have 10,000 followers. I don't care if I have one follower. As long as I can use Twitter for like to find people like you and find people like you and like Twitter. That's what it's used for. Like to me, like I don't. The Facebooks of the world are literally like a useless tool. I don't know why people.
By the way, that was an intense face-to-face subtweet at Nate there.
What?
I have 100,000, so it's cool.
Nate tweeted out earlier today that he has 100,000 followers.
I don't even remember. It was you that did that?
No, because you said 80,000. I have 20,000.
Okay, so that's been like the wave at Barstool lately. Every time someone gets to a number, they're just like, I can't believe it.
I mean, a lot of like my life revolves around Twitter, like my entire job, maybe. So
okay, never mind. Okay,
all right, we get a little off the rails here, but what Arjun and I are trying to get to is that it's probably not the best that we are products. It's probably not the best. We're getting taken advantage of to a certain extent.
I think the era of us being products will be over before long. And we'll. I think it's such a problem that we're not seeing it yet. We're gonna reflect back and be like, "Holy shit.
Yeah.
How did we not realize that we were being sort of manipulated, used in these, horrible ways?"
And this goes back to the point I was making earlier, where you're just born into the system and you just start running. You're like, this is the way it works. Nobody ever takes the time to take a step back and be like, hey, wait a second. So, like, the internet that we have today is the first iteration of the internet. If we think this is going to be the last iteration of the internet, you're wrong.
This is a visionary episode right here. This is like this is lucid. This is a lucid vision.
I'll say this though about like if we're going to go back to like the fate, like I kind of want them to be able to like I don't want to go look like I like fashion and all, like I don't want to go look for shit. If they want to find shit, if they want to listen to me, Facebook, find me like cool fashion and cool shoes and shit. Like, I don't want to go look for. Yo, listen to me. I have my phone in front of my face. Find me this stuff. Find me this stuff. I don't want to go look for it. Find it for me, and hit me with it.
I think a lot of people are just indifferent. Like so much going on in people's lives. It's just like I don't have time to worry about if like Facebook's listening to me.
That indifference can get dangerous to a point, though. It can get dangerous. Like it can get to a point where
that's technology, though. Like it's always the more it improves. Like
but that indifference could lead to like if everybody's too complacent, like it's been proven. Like Chamath, the dude you were mentioning earlier, the original Facebook guy, like he came out. He actually had to backstep because Facebook yelled at him. He was like, "We are manipulating your thoughts and the way you feel."
Sean Parker said that as well. He's like, "We didn't." I think Zuckerberg kind of had this vision from the beginning, but he didn't share it as much with everybody else on the team. Where like they're like, "We're dangerous. Like we're a dangerous part of society." Like Chamath said that, and Sean Parker said that. And I mean, at this point, Facebook so like our lives, a lot of people's lives revolve around Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. That. People just don't have time to worry about it anymore. It's just like people have kids to feed and stuff like that. They don't care if Facebook's listening to like what kind of shoes they want.
Exactly. I'm trying to get people to take a step back.
That's scary, man. That's terrifying. If we gotta separate ourselves from these like massive corporations that then dictate our thoughts and what we're thinking about, talking about, feeling emotionally. Like that's that's really scary stuff.
Yeah. And that's. The one thing I love about other Bitcoiners is they're truly on a quest to become self-sovereigns, and they're individualistic, and everybody not everybody that's in Bitcoin, but the people that are hardcore about it, like just really care about being their own person.
I think that every hardcore sort of like, aspiring sovereign individual, call it, is gonna. Their dream is to like live in a cabin in Montana that they built themselves and like chop their own firewood and like go hunting for their own steaks, and that's the dream, man. Like, what can I say? And so I think that there's probably a middle ground in between that and present day that's great for most people. But I think what we have now in terms of being beholden to these massive like corporations is probably not great.
Yeah, it's definitely not great. I'm happy you said let's meet in the middle. Like, yes, I do want to get good clothes served to me. I do want to have products that I will potentially buy put in front of me. But at the same time, I don't want that to come at the cost of me giving my life away to these corporations to a certain extent.
Exactly. And I think that the two things that we're really, really, really getting right now is one, we're building massive, hopefully successful decentralized infrastructure for things like storage, for things like computation. And, I don't know if there's a serious demand for that, but, I think that we're building that. We have what I see successful, in the money use case. And I think that we'll get there with applications as well. That's the sort of next wave that I see.
Yeah. And so let's take a step back and sort of describe how it would be different than it is today, because I think that gets confusing for a lot of people. So if we did an internet with the block stack style, you hold your data on your client or somebody else's client or server, and you basically reveal the data you want to when necessary.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So they're not just
down with that.
They're not just taking all the data they're not following you around the internet and taking all this cookie data and all the metadata.
Then wait, can we take a step back?
We are taking a step back.
This is the step back. Let's take a step back. When I'm blind, then if that's what, well, maybe not. I don't know. If that's what Blockstack does, and that's what their plan, or at least they're say what they're going to do, why the fuck are we buying like names of corporations on there trying to resell them to people later on? Like, we want to buy names. Like, we want to buy names. Like, we want to buy actual names. Like, I want to buy like Jay-Z's kid's name.
Yeah, well, Lou and I have been buying up some Blockstack IDs.
Nice. I know a lot of people who are doing that on the ID namespace.
Yeah.
So I think that in that future, it's going to be great. Like, it's going to be opt-in. It's going to be I think we're seeing very, very quickly what happens when there's a whole bunch of speculators and like guys who are trying to get in early on something. And this is not that different than what the internet was. In the early to mid 90s, there was a whole bunch of people who were grabbing every domain name they could, right? Dogs.com, groceries.com, sex.com, like they were grabbing up everything. So I think it's the same way. It's a land grab, like anything else.
It's a digital land grab, no doubt about it. And
there's actually a literal digital land grab. There's this project called Decentraland I saw.
It's the Oliver Jansen's or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not sure who the guy is, but they're selling like literal digital plots of land. And it's kind of like, it's like one of those things. It's kind of like esports where I don't quite get it, but I realize that it is going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Right, where I don't quite understand why people choose to watch nerds playing League of Legends or World of Warcraft.
We literally have people doing a live Twitch stream right outside the studio. They're literally on Twitch right now.
Yeah, exactly. But it's it's the same way where it's hey, I just bought this plot of land. Like maybe in sort of like this future crazy virtual reality vision for the world where we're all in headsets. Like the virtual plot of land is just as good as like owning actual land. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm all for, like, I was saying, me and Feidelberg's my roommate, we were talking last night, like, I'm all for getting old and just, like, putting on a headset and, like, going and, like, fighting with Alexander the Great. Like, I'm all for that, dude. Like, I'm all for that. Like, when I'm old, like, I hope that shit's here. Like, I just want to, like, sit there, like, be like, yeah, you guys do whatever the fuck you want. I'm just going to sit here. Like, yeah, you go do that. I'm going to go fight, like, in, like, wars and shit like that. Like, I can't die, so... Like, I really hope that's a lot. I really hope that's like
this is
thing.
Actually Infinite Jest, David Foster Wallace. This is we're gonna be plugged into this crazy entertainment game, and we're just gonna be we're gonna have
maybe we are.
I feel like I kind of am. I feel like in the past 6 to 8 months, I kind of am. Like, I don't feel like I'm ever off the internet, and it's like fucking my brain up some days. I'm like, I'm like, I'm never, ever, ever off the internet. What is he doing?
Marty just got up and left his own show.
Marty literally just left his
Like
own show.
3.5 hours into his own show, he just got up and left.
like no, Marty's like keep.
This is my show now.
It's
This
your
is
show.
actually I'm the
You know
host
what?
of this podcast.
You know what? I'll kick Marty out. You want to come be my account manager?
Yeah.
I'll kick Marty out of the company. No, but like Marty just literally left his own show with like. This is like a super smart conversation, and me and you were just like hanging out here.
Right, I've just been like swiping over here. It's like, wow, they talk about stuff so over my pay grade.
What do you guys want to? You guys want to talk about sports? You guys want to talk? You guys want to talk
sports are
hoops?
dumb. Should we just wrap the show up? Marty comes back. Show's over.
Marty. I don't think Marty's done. Marty was talking about going on like a marathon tonight with you. Like,
Oh,
Marty
wow.
He's like, if you have nothing to do, Marty was like,
dude, it's Friday night. I hold Bitcoin. What do you think I have to do? I got nothing to do. It's
you could just spend. I could spend my entire night.
I got to go home. I got to read. There's a new paper that came out the other day. It's probably the most important cryptography paper that's come out the last year.
Okay, can you like send us the? Can me and Nate? Can you?
I'll send it to you.
We got to get
let's
on
get
an email
everything to me and
chain.
Nate.
I'll give you guys the TLDR. Yeah, it's the Eli Ben Swanson. He's a cryptographer. He's the guy who originally came out with the paper that advanced something called a ZK snark.
Okay.
And that's the zero knowledge proof base that makes what was called zero cash, like Zcash, possible.
Okay.
And so he came out with a new paper advancing something called ZK Starks, because in Zcash there's a whole trusted setup. And so one of my to-dos for like tonight and this weekend after we wrap this up, unless we go on this like crazy marathon session, is to go try to decipher this paper. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna pass on the paper. You guys look at the paper and tell me.
That's
what
on
to
my
do.
list this weekend too. I actually have the tab open for Z Starks.
Very
so let's
nice.
talk about the trusted setup. The thing with Zcash's trusted setup that spooks me the fuck out is the cell phone that got hacked. Like,
there's enough people in the trusted setup that I look at. I'm like, yeah, those guys are probably good.
Mm-hmm.
But this is very, very interesting. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm gonna understand every other word, but hopefully, this looks really, really promising. So I'm excited.
yeah, Z Starks. So you don't need a trusted setup. The thing that geeks me out about Zcash's trusted setup is that Zuko had a journalist come, and his phone visibly got hacked during the trusted setup.
The Radio Lab episode they did on this was it's kind of insane.
Really?
I heard it. Yeah,
Was it post-mortem? Like,
no. It was like it was sort of like as it was happening, like they put together this whole hyper-produced episode of Radio Lab, and it was kind of crazy with all this theme music, and it was good. It's like I think normies are gonna go listen to Radio Lab and be like, wow, cool Zcash, like this is cool. It's so private, it's so anonymous. It's sort of like I think the real sort of like what I see as the cypherpunk like ethos is in privacy right now. Mm-hmm. Sort of like the people who are working on privacy tech right now are, I think, sort of most, in my mind, what I see as the real kind of ethos is still there.
yeah, definitely.
So it's cool. I'm super excited.
And let's talk about a couple of things that Core's working on that could help fungibility on Bitcoin and help it become more private, which is Mimblewimble Mass. Mimblewimble is like an altcoin implementation right now, but there's arguments that it could be implemented on Bitcoin.
Yeah, there's a number of these. I think that fungibility has been like it's a long-standing issue. It's like I remember like it's not recent. There was back in the day like Mike Hearn was like, hey, this has been an issue.
Blacklist address.
Yeah, this has been an issue since sort of like day, maybe not day 1, but sort of day 50 of like hey, this thing is not. And there's a whole bunch of companies. There's Chainalysis in Brooklyn, like Elliptic. Like there's a number of companies that make their money doing blockchain analysis for
Block and Chain.
Yeah, like in terms of looking for illicit transactions, looking for money laundering, drugs, and so the idea that this could be that we could achieve something like true fungibility is fascinating. I think the only the super near term thing that's happening on Bitcoin, there's another Bitcoin airdrop scheduled for something called Bitcoin Private. Which you'll have Bitcoin Private if you keep it in your ledger, keep it in your Trezor. And Bitcoin Private, it's this kid out of MIT who graduated from MIT, Rhett. He was working on Z Classic, which was this.
He's got like 5 coins out there. Red is I mean, I don't trust that motherfucker as far as I can throw him. He started so many shit coins and left their projects that it's like, I think he's jumping from project to project trying to make a quick buck.
His big win was Z Classic, which I think was a fork, or it was a clone of Zcash, where they just removed the founders reward, because on Zcash there's a 20% founders reward,
25% for the first 2 years, 25% of the block reward for the first 2 years.
Okay, I suspect that'll go away at some point. I think that there's been sort of enough backlash over the years that it'll go away, but the looking at Bitcoin private, they did the perfect kind of like what I see as like the altcoin crazy run up, where they said each Z Classic holder will get a Bitcoin private token, and each Bitcoin holder at the time of the airdrop will get one as well. So that's why Z Classic has run up so much.
Yeah, no, we're seeing that in Counterparty too right now, because they're gonna fork to be compatible with Bcash.
Yeah, all these sort of like airdrops and forked coins now. It's crazy. People realize that they have like a distribution mechanism, that they have the ability to like if I were to go out and buy some altcoin, I'd have to really, really think hard about it. But if it's, hey, I got this thing for free, it's free money, then, I'm sort of like, oh, this is awesome.
Well, if you're going to launch a shitcoin, it's the best way to do it, because you get an automatic network effect for the people that claim those coins. And
Yeah. Exactly. So, if you're a longtime Bitcoin holder and you've never used something with a privacy sort of implementation, that might actually be pretty interesting if they end up actually going through with it.
Yeah. And that's maybe this will be the first project that Red actually sticks through and sees it through to the end.
Yeah.
Actually,
Bitcoin Cash.
Let's not get into Bitcoin Cash. We've beat that dead horse too much here. It's just not. It's not worth it. I mean, they're not doing anything exciting in my mind. Let's figure out what else I wanted to talk about here. We do marathons here, so I'll probably cut this up into like 3 episodes.
Oh God.
So let's talk about the trading community a little bit.
Okay.
Because that's one thing that fascinates me. Like, I've got this list that I've been sharing for a while, my crypto list, and it's heavy on traders, and I'm fascinated by the trading world. I like to think of myself as somebody who knows my limitations. Like, I try not to trade as much as possible. I have long-term bags that I have and I believe in, and I'm pretty confident we'll do well in the long term. But the reason I want to touch on the trading community is because every noob that's coming in and is hitting up my DMs in my inbox is like, how do I start trading? I'm like, if you don't know how to trade, like, be careful.
Yes. So it's actually, it's funny you mentioned DMs. I get a ton of DMs as well about trading. And my DMs, so the sort of like Bitcoin trader memes where everyone says like Sir Wen Moon, and they're making fun of this like Indian community because Indians
everybody hits up Romano asking Sir Wen Moon on video.
Yeah, Indians love saying Sir. They love calling everybody Sir. And I get all of the Indian community DMs because they're like, oh, this is like an Indian guy. He's on Twitter. He talks crypto. So, there's 2 sort of interesting trading communities. There's the one that I see offline, which is sort of like traditional, institutional guys that are trading this stuff and, very, very methodical about it. Then there's crypto trading Twitter. And, I'll proceed it with this, which is most crypto trader Twitters, especially all the ones that are running paid groups, most of them are shit traders.
And they're trying to dump on their followers.
Exactly. They're running pump and dump groups. If they were any good at trading, they would not be running paid groups. And some of them are pulling in, 50, 100 Bitcoin a month running these paid groups. It's absurd.
All right, I'll set up a paid. You want to run a paid group? I'll set up the marketing.
Lewis.
I'll set up the marketing.
This is a long-term reputation game.
Dude.
We're not blowing our reputation on long.
What I've realized though in the past couple weeks, and just in Barstool and the internet in general, everyone wants their blood one day, and no one remembers anything 5 days later. So, like, what does that matter? Marty, everyone would be like, Lewis and Marty stole all this Bitcoin from us. 5 days later, they'd be like, I don't even remember that happened.
I want a boat more than I want a reputation. I'll tell you that much.
Like, they wouldn't even know. Like, I'm telling you, the internet now, it's like you don't remember what happened 5 days later. Literally 5 days. Every day, there's a new end of the world story.
Yeah. Some of the crypto traders, there's really two camps. There's one, group of sort of like what I see as, similar investors to me, fundamental, long-term oriented. There are other guys that are more sort of technical traders that are looking at, what's the head and shoulders, what's the, the inverse.
TA works until it doesn't.
It's, so some of these guys, everybody, somehow if you look at the charts right now, it's like every chart looks the same. Maybe I just suck at this. Maybe I'm a shit trader, right? I'd like to think I do well for myself, but it's every chart looks the same. It's every chart looks bullish. Like you sort of switch the X and Y axes.
Like being a weathered alt, I don't even want to call myself a trader, but somebody who has traded alts in the past. Like I was looking at that Tron chart earlier this week, like screaming at Matt Brown, sell it now. Sell it now. This is your prototypical pump and dump.
Yeah, some traders I will say are awesome. Some traders are really, really good. Some of the guys that I follow and have spoken to plenty. Other traders, I really, they're looking at charts. They're looking at no tech. So sort of where I see, the charts and the fundamentals of a token align. That's where I as an investor, given my background, that's what I really like, because if the fundamentals are great and I know there's stuff that's coming out and I know it's a promising project with good devs and the chart looks pretty bullish because it's sort of like super cheap and it's falling a lot, that I feel really, really good about that.
This is not financial advice. We don't give out financial advice here, but the Monero chart has looked sexy as fuck lately. It has been a slow grind up. I think it's a lot. I think it's in an accumulation phase, and I think if Ricardo and team can continue to innovate on Monero, and the fundamentals are there as well. So Bitcoin is not used on the dark markets. Monero is the go-to dark market cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
and
Monero Zcash, which has been falling for months now against Bitcoin. Despite the fact that it's not fully private, I'm a fan, especially with Starks. Seeing what they'll be able to do in the next year, because that's really the sort of like time horizon that I'm looking at, is a year. I feel good about that. Ethereum's been running up like a lot of these, but a lot of these traders are tossing out things that, they could buy 20 Bitcoin worth and totally move the chart themselves if they wanted to. It becomes almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. Where they'll tweet about a chart and then instantly it'll move because they're 10,000 followers will start buying the thing up.
I'm continuously fascinated by the amount of followers these anonymous crypto trading accounts can accrue.
It's crazy because everybody, just like everybody thinks they're a saver now, everybody's a saver because of Bitcoin. Everybody's a trader because they buy alts.
Exactly.
And, the reality is none of these guys know what they're doing. A lot of these guys will lose their shirts against Bitcoin. If you're not making more Bitcoin month to month or week to week than you were, then you're actually losing money. You should just be buying and holding Bitcoin. At a minimum, you should be outperforming Bitcoin. That's another thing that a lot of the noobs don't realize, which is, they're up in US dollars, but they're down in Bitcoin. Hey, you should have just held Bitcoin the whole time.
That's what we say all the time. We just there's no point of doing this. Let's just hold Bitcoin unless you're like really in this world. Like, just buy Bitcoin and hold that.
And that's the thing, like noob traders don't understand. It's not about profits. It's about risk management.
You can look me in the eyes when you're talking about it.
People don't know how to manage risk and like make position sizes and set stop losses. And
exactly.
Take profits. Like this is stuff that you have to realize. Like I worked at a hedge fund and I can't even fucking do it.
Let me just chime in here because there's probably a lot of people like me who are listening to this who like the excitement of the buying and selling of the alts who don't really understand pretty much any of it. Like I talked to you, I talked to Lewis, I listened to this podcast, but it's a very complicated, very, very over my head like system and idea. But I read as much as I can. I try to learn, but it's still very complicated. Like being just like careful and safe about it and just like is probably just like we should probably talk a little more about that just because there's so much money involved in it that idiots like me and other people out there like once it's like on the internet you forget that the value that it has. So
it's been crazy this year looking at like you're making trades like 0.1 Bitcoin. It used to be fucking $20 and now it's like holy shit.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is like more than $1,000. Like,
what's great? Here's what I will say is black swan events like exchanges getting shut down will wipe you out more than anything else. it will wipe you, 100% you will get wrecked. And the thing that I will say to all these noobs is that a lot of them are holding money on exchanges, right? So it's like, how many of them know how to set up a Ripple wallet, or a Tron wallet? I don't even know if that exists.
It doesn't exist. It's
Exactly, right? So it's, where are they holding their tokens? Even if they're making profits, if you're not custodying your assets yourself, you're opening yourself up. Do you know what the team of Bittrex is, or Poloniex, or some of these other exchanges? I have a support ticket on Poloniex. I've been trying to get answered for 2 months.
Yeah.
And the CEO of Poloniex, he was like a music major in college. Like, what's he doing running an exchange, right?
Exactly. That's the one, like, remember MinPal? Were you ever on MinPal?
No.
I got caught in that exit scam.
I was in the, I was a participant in the Mt. Gox class action lawsuit.
Marty, I want everything, first thing Monday before we do ads, I want everything on a wallet.
Yes.
I have all my Bitcoin on a wallet, but I just look at everything. I want everything on wallets.
That's
wallets on everything.
Smart move.
Yeah, that's what I've been setting Caleb up with wallets all week. He's been getting on it, and that's one thing. Like, and that's why I wanted to come help Barstool out. It's like, I heard you talking about. I'm like, all right, let's do this the right way. Let's start educating people how to actually do this correctly. Because, like you said, you got caught up in Mt. Gox. I got caught up in MinPal. I woke up one day and just didn't have money. Like, the money I did have was just
all these
taken.
Exchanges right now are printing so much money.
Sick. What are your thoughts on Binance? It sort of came up out of nowhere, and like it's a little sketchy to me.
I'll trade wherever there's liquidity personally.
I'm on Binance, so if it's bad, let's know.
Binance it's doing, like this week it was doing like $7-8 billion in volume every day. Mm-hmm. At that run rate, if they're doing 50 basis points, 0.5% a trade, they're on a run rate that's bigger than the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ, annualized. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And they have their one thing that's been interesting, that in sort of late 2017, early 2018, these new exchanges that are coming out, Binance and KuCoin, these Asian exchanges, they all have a token now.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. Like, Caleb was asking me, like,
Cash is up like 500 billion% this week.
Like, what? Why? Why do you need that token?
Yeah, you get like a discount on fee structures, and
so smart.
This is a wild world, man.
It is insane. Michael Lewis is going to write a book on this someday.
I've been thinking about writing a book about this because it is like crazy.
Yeah, take good notes, man.
That's why I write the newsletter every day.
Yeah, exactly. This is a crazy time. There's, some of these exchanges, Binance is hot now. It comes and goes with the season. Last spring, Poloniex was a hot exchange. Yeah. Then Bittrex was the hot exchange for 6 months. Yeah. And now Binance, because they have this massive Chinese support team, they're the hot exchange. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite things is when you log into Binance, there's like a puzzle piece that you have to slide over. Get the puzzle piece, and it always says for me 99, better than 99.9%. And does it say that for all you guys?
Yeah, it says it for everyone. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but
yeah, exactly. And apparently, I've heard on Binance that they're forcing like coins to pay them a lot of money to get on the exchange, which is a little
all these
sketchy
guys
to me.
that are running these exchanges.
Yes,
they're making even more money than Satoshi, dude. They're making millions a day.
Yeah.
And so I think that hopefully in 2018 we'll see a lot more sort of control and regulation over these exchanges to ensure that people will have a safe place to trade.
Yeah,
if that's what they want to do.
You don't want to wake up to a Mt. Gox or a MinPal situation.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Although I do have a great postcard from Japan from Mt. Gox.
Really?
I do. Yeah, it's from a Japanese court. I think right now, as we tape this, Kraken I think is still down. They've been down for
Have they?
Yeah, they were down for quite some time.
Yeah, they're still got the red circle next to them on trade block. So they're not functional right now.
Yeah. Be careful.
Yeah, and that's like, again, going back to the ethos of why this was created, to have a Swiss bank account in your pocket. I would highly encourage anybody listening to this to start researching how to do private key management, how to take this stuff into your own custody and hold it long term. And it's definitely highly technical to a certain extent.
2018 will be the year for decentralized exchanges.
Yeah.
I think, we saw it with, I think 0x will be the first, trading of Ethereum and ERC20 Ethereum-based tokens. 0x, they were doing less than $1 million in volume, at the end of 2017. Then in sort of 1 week, they broke $1 million, they broke $2 million, then they broke $10 million. I think that by the end of the year, they'll be doing $100 million a day, at least. conservatively.
But they're on top of Ethereum, right?
Yeah. And so all of their order books are off chain.
Okay.
But I think that ultimately we'll have a CryptoKitties like situation where they'll clog up the Ethereum chain with their settlement transactions.
That's one thing.
Or computation, rather.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like, I have a lot of love for some of the people working on Ethereum. I know them personally. I wish them the best, but I just, me personally, I cannot bring myself to put money on that protocol just because of the scaling issues they have ahead of them. And it could, so this is the one question I wanted to ask you earlier that we never got onto. Could Ethereum, what happens if all the Geth nodes go offline? Could Ethereum keep running?
Nothing. Well, there's a lot of clients for Ethereum.
I know, exactly.
Geth
Isn't, so Geth
isn't the only client.
You bring up the Geth client and they say, that's not the only client. Like, we're pruning, we're doing other ones, but don't you need to reference the full state of the blockchain at some point? Or am I wrong in assuming that?
I'm not actually sure. I think that there are actually other.
Yeah, there's lightweight clients that you can load up in 20. They only take up 25 to 40 gigs of data.
Yep.
But conceptually, to me, Geth has the full state of the Ethereum blockchain. You need to reference that at some point. Am I wrong in assuming that?
No. I think that's totally fair. But my understanding was that Geth wasn't the only client that was operational that way.
I thought it was. I think it's the only client with the full state and history.
I'm not sure.
No.
Yeah, I'm not sure. At this point there's I think 7 or 8 different Ethereum clients that are being worked on. So I'm not actually sure about that.
That's what I'm actually trying to get a couple of the researchers to come on. I actually got to reach out to Lane, who runs Crypto NYC in Brooklyn. He's been working closely with Carl and Vitalik on Ethereum scaling.
Nice. I think if anyone can help figure this out, it'll be Vitalik. That guy is very, very smart.
Yeah, I go back and forth with Vitalik. I think he's smart but misguided.
I think he has good intentions.
Definitely has good intentions, but not enough experience, and I don't think he gets how the world works. I think he has a view of how it works and how it should work in his head. And it's the Mike Tyson quote: "Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face." And
the guys that have normative views of the world are the ones that change it, though, and so that's the reason why I'm glad that people like him exist.
Yeah, no, definitely, we need people to push the conversation and push us to the limits. I just think the boy genius sort of meme around him is very dangerous for Ethereum specifically, because a lot of its success hinges on him being successful specifically.
Yeah, that's one thing that I actively think about. Although I think that it is being slowly improved upon, where there's more and more minds in the room. But we even saw early last year where Vitalik had to hold up
prove he was alive.
Yep, exactly. Proof of life. But I think that that's one thing with other projects like Monero, for example. If Fluffy Pony, bless his soul, were to somehow get hit by a truck, there's dozens of other developers that are working on Monero, and some of my favorite projects have large teams like that. Monero Decred is another one where they have some of these problems ironed out. With Ethereum, there's a large team of researchers that are actively working on it, but it is something that I worry about. Not so much that Vitalik is the central focal point, but he's sort of what I see as the spiritual leader here.
Yeah, exactly.
And that can be dangerous.
And that's why I trend towards maximalism too. I mean, I am a maximalist. I don't trend towards it because nobody knows who Satoshi is, and that fact alone liberates everybody to sort of build around Bitcoin. And the fact that we can't point to somebody and say, "What should we do?" is liberating in a sense. We may not realize it completely right now, but I think that is an advantage that no other blockchain has, maybe other than Monero. I mean,
this is what people who sort of complain about Bitcoin, this is what they're wrong about, which is that Bitcoin being hard to change is a good thing. It's actually good, because if Bitcoin had very, very few changes from now until sort of eternity, you can call it, until 20,999,000, whatever block it is, or rather Bitcoin amount it is. If Bitcoin had no changes, we'd actually still probably be in a great state.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. Like, Bitcoin, as it is now, I don't think it needs to be changed at all. Maybe you could build on top of it. Like, yes, you can have more efficiency at the protocol level. I think innovations like MAST and scriptless signatures would be good innovation, but I don't think it's completely necessary. I think Bitcoin is a slow dump protocol that does what it purports it's going to do. It enables peer-to-peer censorship-resistant transactions, and that one dumb use case is all it needs. Like that's you just need to keep stamping out blocks every 10 minutes.
Exactly.
And as long as fees don't kill the network, like I think it could be successful in its current state going forward, and you can build on top of it via second, third, fourth layers.
Exactly. I think it's like I said earlier, whatever wins money will win, right? And I think that that if we see money as the outsized winner here, I think that Bitcoin is farther ahead than everybody else when it comes to what is money.
Yeah, and then you get into the whole Lindy effect side of it, and the fact that it's obviously the oldest blockchain.
And it hasn't gone down.
No.
Its uptime is ridiculous. The uptime of every other website in the world is absolute garbage when it compares to Bitcoin.
Exactly, and that's the other thing that makes me completely skeptical of other blockchains is the nature of, like, it's hard to create a centralized app like Barstool or a website, a centralized app where you have a team working on it and they control what happens. When you get into distributed, decentralized blockchains, like the chances of making it like perfect in the long run, of coordinating resources to make a distributed system as successful as Bitcoin at this point, it seems like an arduous task in my mind.
You should be very skeptical of blockchains that go down. In that there was a whole issue earlier last year in sort of mid 2017 when the IOTA blockchain sort of went down, or I guess the IOTA DAG went down, the IOTA network was down, for a time period. And everyone was like super confused. They were like, why can't we make transactions? And turns out there's a centralized coordinator. I think they literally call it a coordinator. And so, you should be very, very skeptical of situations like that because there are, points of failure. Central points of failure are very, very bad. If you wanted to bring down Bitcoin, there's a whole bunch of attack vectors. You probably talked about them on the show before, but
we saw a lot of attacks last year.
Yeah, it's very hard.
It is. But that's the beauty of it. It's like, wow, it really is. Like last year proved that Bitcoin is a honey badger. It can get kicked in the dick over and over again and come back stronger than ever.
Maybe the big attack will be 2018 when now that we have a short side that we can bet on where, people can get big money on this sort of synthetic market and try to bring down the network to capitalize on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in. Like, so I worked in the futures markets before, and I'm just like, the fact I go back and forth. Like Jack Mallers has talked about this as well. Like the fact that it's cash settled. Like the futures contracts themselves will not affect the Bitcoin markets. What I'm more worried about is those traders basically buying Bitcoin on the other side of those trades. Actually, I'm not even describing this perfectly. What I'm more worried about is like people trying to manipulate the futures markets by buying and selling Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, you can.
Are you drunk? Are you drunk?
No, I'm not drunk. No,
drunk.
I'm trying to.
You're like 3 beers in. You're good.
I'm just 2 beers in. Two beers.
I'm just fucking.
Just opened my third.
I'm just fucking with you.
But I'm saying no. The dynamic between the cash settled futures and the physical delivery. That's why it's so confusing to talk about because there is no physical delivery of Bitcoin.
Marty hit that
digital.
jewel. He had a few Sam Adams.
3 hours into the podcast, he's losing it.
Hey,
but only like 2 more hours to go. So
you're starting to look good looking, Nate.
Hey, how's it going?
It's getting weird in here, guys.
It's getting a little too weird. Let's get back on path. I'm going to open it up to you two. What questions do you have for Arjun?
All right, I'm ready. Give me the, in the 3 to 4 steps, how do I end up taking it all to the top?
Turn around. Look who's here.
Oh my God. How do I take it all? How do I know, in 3 to 4 steps? If someone who's very busy, someone who has, literally my team is a bozo idiot right here, and then Marty Bent, who knows nothing about advertising, but I need him around. I need him around. Literally knows nothing, but I need him around because I know we're going to like another level, and I just need someone to sit next to me who's like, yo, just get in this, get in this. Yeah. So how are we getting in the like what's your like day-to-day thought process and all? It's like, give me like when you get up and like you look like where do you go to get your most of your information?
Twitter. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, so then you go to Twitter. Then where do you go?
I go to Twitter. I check subreddits pretty aggressively.
I'm a big subreddit guy. Okay.
Subreddits, Telegram channels. That's where you get sort of like
not on Telegram, but Marty's a big Telegram guy.
You gotta get a sense of the community, see what it's like. I read a lot of sort of like what I see as primary source material. So combination of code and papers, like white papers.
Okay, so so my code and white paper is Andrew.
That's an advantage you have over me is reading code. Like how much code are you reading? Like,
so reading not so much, running a lot.
Okay.
So for example, I spent some time last year trying to get my Monero node running.
It's hard.
Yeah, it was surprisingly difficult. I'm sure it's a little bit easier now given that it's been 6-7 months. But so I spend a lot of time trying to actually interact with, interact and get a client running myself. So say, if something has a master node sort of mechanism, I try to set up a master node myself. If something has a full node implementation, I try to run the full node myself. I've mined sort of back in the day. Now I invest in miners, but I don't personally mine anymore, but if I, had to have, sort of the free time, that's something that I want to do more of at a loss. I think it's very hard to mine individually. It's almost impossible to do it at a profit now. But, that's something, sort of like getting as hands-on as possible is something that I think is pretty important to me.
No, I agree. I mean, that's process. The only way I learned advertising is to come in and just literally do it on my, don't know how else. So it's like, that's where I get very much I don't know if I'll, at the current rate we're going, if I'll ever be able to totally understand this. Yeah. Because it's we're not, to be in a world, you have to totally dive in and be like, this is all I'm going to do.
Yeah.
This is all I'm going to do.
But I will say, so if you're using Monero, for example, you making a transaction to Marty or vice versa, I think that's one way to go. If you're investing in 0x and trying out, hey, what is a decentralized, how can I make a trade that's not on a centralized exchange and go buy some Ethereum token and then sell it again, maybe at a slight loss because I do it back to back, but just to try what it's like. I think that trying to do is use the use cases as much as possible is pretty important. So that's one thing that I try to do a lot of.
I staked Vericoin for a year just to figure out what staking was like. Staking as a different consensus protocol to proof of work is fascinating to me. Yeah. And just seeing that work in real time, holy shit, my coins are being staked right now and contributing to the network, and my laptop is contributing to this global consensus network. It sort of blows your mind.
Yeah, that's one of the important things when it comes to community management with projects is making it easy for people who aren't technical to be able to do all of these things. They should be able to. Ultimately, if the sort of self-sovereign future that we articulated earlier is going to become a reality, then this is the how it happens.
We need miners that are doubling as water heaters in houses and stuff like that. You just turn it on and it works. and that's another. So that's the state of where we are right now. We're waiting for this UX to come.
Yeah,
and it's going to take time. And so let's do a state of the blockchain right now. Bitcoin just turned 9 years old on January 3rd.
Yes.
We're less than a decade in. We're probably in our third or fourth major bubble.
Yes.
Let's compare it to the last bubble. So let's compare it to 2013, 2014.
Why would exactly.
What has changed since then?
What has changed? Exactly.
So 2013 was when, 2012, 2013 was when a lot of the consumer infrastructure for buying, selling, storing Bitcoin came online. So Coinbase went through, I think, YC 2012, Coinbase, blockchain.com, a lot of this infrastructure.
Blockchain info.
A lot of this infrastructure for consumers was being built right around then, 2012, 2013. And most of those early adopters were all technologists. So they were all, pretty savvy on how Bitcoin worked, how to make transactions. They could operate things independently if they wanted to. So what we saw between 2013 and 2016 was a lot of the institutional infrastructure came online. So in 2017, we saw a futures market by the CME, the CBOE come online. We saw a lot of the institutional custody products, so Coinbase, Gemini, Xapo, a number of other companies are building institutional infrastructure now. You saw a lot of the miners become industrialized, where you had Bitmain. You have a number of smaller miners that are all like sort of spinning up vertically integrated mining operations. And so, if 2012, 2013 was consumer infrastructure, 2016, 2017 was institutional infrastructure, I think that 2018 and 19 will be what I see as the first wave of adoption. Mm-hmm. And what that entails for me is a lot of the user experience, right? That's currently not that great, but will be very great. I think that there's going to be a significant layer of abstraction above what people interact with and what the technology is underlying, the same way we saw with consumer buying and selling and storage, and then institutional buying, selling, representing the asset. I think we'll see the same thing for using of these actual services. Mm-hmm. That will be abstracted away in a way that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, like looking at Jack Mahler's Zap app right now, like if that UX and that
it's beautiful.
Network, it's incredible. And I've said this before on the podcast as well, but I think y'alls.org is the best troll in the best troll game in the Bitcoin space, coming at yours. But yes, that's what we need. Is like, I come from a design background as well, finance and design, and the UX needs to be there. And that's one thing I would encourage if you're sitting there like, hey, what can I do? And you're a designer, you're a UX designer or a UI designer, start working on these projects.
Sleep? Oh, I thought you were sleeping. Sorry, my bad.
He's playing Candy Crush over there earlier.
Nah, just swiping.
What a Friday night for you, kid.
We gotta get Blockstack Tinder. We gotta get like the Blockstack version of Tinder.
Yeah. The Kevin Pham, who's very controversial on crypto Twitter, he threw out a crypto dating app.
That guy is strange. That guy is very strange. He's very controversial, very strange. Yeah. He talks about his love life a lot, which is interesting. His app is HODL Me. If you're gonna do that is
if you're gonna do like a crypto Tinder.
I'll put up the crypto Tinder the bounty, 1 Ethereum for whoever gets a good proof of concept. I heard it here first.
And we just put out a bug bounty, or not a bug bounty, a bounty for a Tinder app on the blockchain. But like Kevin Pham, he's controversial. A lot of people don't like him. I get what he's doing, though. I think he's trying to push the conversation to a certain area.
He's trying to push the Bitcoin Overton window. That's what he's doing.
Yeah. I understand where he's coming from. Actually, I'd like to have him on here to get more into his head a little bit.
I think him and Chris DeRose,
they just did a podcast
did a podcast. I think they were shirtless for the podcast. So, Marty, unless you want to take your shirt off, I don't know if that'll work out.
I mean, I'm not what I used to be.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
I used to have I used to be pretty jacked. Not anymore. From jacked to fat in 10 years. That's what happens when you tear your ACL and you never get it fixed.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah, me too. That's why I don't work out.
I used to bench 4 plates, actually.
Yeah, we're looking at Matt Brown, who just joined us.
Matt Brown, we shit on Tron earlier.
Yeah, Tron's done.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hey, Matt Brown, get over here.
Tron's
done. I'm gonna tag out with Matt Brown because I gotta go home real quick. But
Did you just get a confirmed swipe?
No, I didn't. No. But follow me on Twitter at BarstoolNate.
He just hit 100K. He's looking to go to 200 in half the amount of time. Nate, safe ride back to Hoboken.
Oh, see you, Nate. So, I'm pretty sure Tron's updated white paper is actually already working on Tinder on the blockchain. just so you guys know.
Here we go.
Just so you guys know.
You missed so much of this conversation already.
Yeah, I know. I don't even know what to say because I know whatever I say is going to sound so stupid.
The best was yesterday. It's like all these companies now like Localytics was actually like a pretty big data company at one point.
Localytics, yeah, it's in Boston.
Yeah,
I
they're
worked on the
kinda
same
like-
floor as them at
They're
one
kind
point.
of going under, and Andrew texted me yesterday. They're like basically like rejiggering the whole team to work on some type of blockchain or crypto thing right now.
Kodak did this week
Yeah,
too.
they're like-
the
yeah, but
miner.
they don't have any.
I'll go on record. The Kodak miner will never fucking work. That's not. It's cloud mining. They have like a cloud mining contract where
they get 50% of the
50%.
revenue.
Yeah, that will never work. There's no chance. So shout out Kodak for trying to stay relevant in 2018.
And shout out for Kodak stockholders who made like 300% this week.
Yeah.
Hopefully you sold.
I'll be back.
Lou's gonna rip a piss.
we've been in here for like 6 hours now.
It's been 2 hours.
Have you guys really been purring for that long?
Nah, 2 hours.
This is more just like a hangout session on hot mics than it is a podcast at this point.
It's gotten to that point. That's where we are now. So Matt, meet Arjun.
It's nice to meet you. Oh.
We
So
just shook hands.
That was bad radio, but we just shook hands. I've been pumped that you're coming in since I read the article. I am a noob brought in basically by Marty and Lou. I started off just like Bitcoin Chad hodler. Then now I'm in that like altcoin bubble fever phase. So right now I'm like 70% BTC, 30% Tron. Everyone listening, just go buy Tron just so I can sell it.
Marty, how many of your listeners know what the term Chad means?
I don't, unless you've seen me retweet a Chad tweet. I don't think very many. So Chad is a meme going around. A Chad hodler is basically just a bro who has no idea what he's
that
buying.
defines me. That defines me overall. Like I'm just a Tron Chad hodler now. Like I don't even know what to do. I can't sell it at a
No,
loss.
you
I'm just gonna
can't
hold
be a
it.
Chad if you're hodling Tron. You don't get the
You
meme.
can, yeah. That's really
Why not?
that's really tough.
It's
you know,
Bitcoin
because
specific.
if I go on a date and I tell a girl, "Hey, I invested in Bitcoin," you know, she's gonna be like, "Yeah, cool, I know what that is."
Yeah,
If
true.
you tell her you invested in Tron, she's gonna be like, you know, what the hell is that? You know, it's
Yeah.
like the movie.
It's more like, oh, I got all these random alts. Like you don't even want to know. But
Vic probably hates your dick right now because you're all on Tron and shit like that.
nah, she doesn't care. She knows we're Gucci. She knows we're Gucci.
That's the real. That'll be the real top when people start mortgaging their homes to buy shit like Tron.
Is it just complete dog shit? It just has no product yet, right?
Yeah, no product, plagiarized white paper. That was a little bit.
They all are though. Fucking
Whoa.
Cardano, not all of them. Sorry,
Cardano
Fuck.
is
I knew I was
not
gonna say something
plagiarized.
stupid.
Cardano, shout out Charles Hoskinson.
Yeah.
So like IOTA and Cardano are like way better than Tron.
IOTA, no.
IOTA, they had a I don't want to say falsified, but they had a little bit of you know, a little Microsoft hype that may not have been entirely, you know, accurate.
Yeah,
That
a little-
and a team of MIT developers audited their code and they tried to create their own cryptographic hash function. And
That was,
that's something you should never do.
That was absolutely savage.
So-
Shout out to
so-
the MIT DCI. who
Yeah.
was,
So bright side on Tron, they have no hash function to even evaluate. So let's just pump it.
All right. This is obviously isn't going to make the air. What do we want to get on to next? Like, how much time do you have, Arjun?
I got all the time.
I don't know how much longer I can go, guys.
Yeah.
I mean,
let's-
I am just
it's
like,
hot.
We are going, Marty. I know you can do this, like get high and do this forever, but
I'm not high. I haven't smoked pot in like 2 days.
I'm getting tired.
All right. Let's do some closing questions here.
Great.
We're almost 3 hours in.
It feels like 7.
It's like we're in fucking zero gravity in Dragon Ball Z, where you can just. Yeah, that was a bad analogy. I actually tried to make that analogy earlier in this podcast series, and it didn't work that time either. Let me see what I have written down here. So, all right, back on the rails, Arjun. Let's give 3. I know we've given out a lot of advice tonight, but let's just consolidate it for newcomers getting into this space. You're going to dollar cost average in. What would you recommend for people coming into the space to go about research, how to find good projects versus bad projects? Let's basically go over your non-technical token evaluation sheet that you wrote up for everybody.
Yeah. I think that for new projects in the space, you want to really if you're total noob, you want to do a couple different things. You should follow at least what a couple of these funds are investing in, because some of the funds, not all the funds, but some of the funds put out research on projects that they think are really good. And, some of them, like Multicoin, has put out a lot of research on something on 0x, for example. I think they've also written about Funfair and, sort of why they're investing. That'll help you. You can look up YouTube videos on a lot of the projects. You have to be careful because a lot of them are sort of hype, marketing, promo. But you can usually tell, what's a sort of James Altucher type hype video and what's actually legit.
BitConnect!
That was one of my favorite videos. I love the part where all the Indian people especially are in the video and they're like, it's...
For those of you that don't know, BitConnect was actually a legitimate Ponzi scheme, coupling as a blockchain.
Yeah, I think pyramid scheme, straight up pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
It was bad. So that'll help you separate sort of the BitConnects from the world and just sort of thinking through, who are the users going to be? What is the token sale structure? How much does the founding team have? Did they get it all at once, or is it being sort of distributed over time? I think all of those questions, thinking through them critically, are really, really important. And that'll help you start to separate, what's an obvious get-rich-quick scheme from a sort of like longer-term get-rich-quick scheme. Because ultimately that's what a lot of these networks are, because people are building networks because they want to get rich. Maybe not in the short term, maybe on a 10-year time horizon, which, if they build something valuable over 10 years, I have no personal problem with.
Yeah, neither do I. And that's one thing that fascinates me, is how caught up in all the buzzwords that people can be. Like the amount of should I buy Ripple texts that I got like the last month is like,
yeah,
it's dumbfounding.
If you can't understand what the token does or how it'll go up in value, how it'll generate value beyond speculative demand, then you probably shouldn't buy the token.
Matty Brown here.
Everybody's talking about
Matty Brown here told me that Ripple is going to $300. Not realizing
everybody's talking about banks are going to use Ripple. Everybody's talking, but nobody can explain how banks will use Ripple, why that value will accrue to the XRP token, and why it makes sense for a consumer to hold XRP as a result of that. I think that starting with that base sort of set of questions is going to really, really help weed out what's valuable and what's not, because maybe people will get lucky and maybe people will make smart trades and sort of capitalize on the speculative demand, but more often than not, a lot of the newcomers to the space are going to get wrecked as a result and have bad experiences.
Yeah,
that's not good.
And with Ripple specifically, like, that's what people need to know. Like, there's XRP, and then they have like another like technology without the token. That probably will most likely. I mean, not most likely. Like, if the bank's going to use XRP or this technology, it's not going to be the token. It's going to be the back end infrastructure.
And on top of that, they control a large amount of the XRP.
60%.
60%. The free float is actually pretty limited, and a certain amount of that hits the market every single month that they release.
And then you got to take into account the unit of account. How many tokens? What is the supply of tokens for these? So yeah. Matty B last week was like, yeah, Ripple's going to 300. I was like, if Ripple went to $300, that'd be a $30 trillion market cap.
It's been a long week. I've learned a lot.
I think that one of the valuable resources here, and this site's been going on all week, so I don't mean to give it more volume. On my On-chain FX. On-chain FX. Everybody stop using CoinMarketCap. Use On-chain FX, even though they have so much demand, their site keeps going down. On-chain FX, they take into account sort of like how much supply there is, what the market cap is when it's sort of fully diluted, and they take all of these things into account, and it frames a much better picture for what the reality is versus CoinMarketCap, which is easily manipulated. And that actually moved the markets earlier this week. CoinMarketCap took the Korean exchanges off of their index, and Bitcoin fell like $2,000 as a result. Yeah, exactly.
And then another one of my favorite tweets that was going around this week is if these coins had the same 21 million supply that Bitcoin has, like what they would be valued. Ripple would have been valued at like $14,000 a coin.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out Ryan Selkis. I'm pretty sure he tweeted that out.
Yeah.
I spend too much time on Twitter because I can recognize these things without you even
Ryan, if you're listening.
Two-bit idiot.
You're getting in the studio soon. I've been bugging you for months.
He is the
it's
man.
Time. Yeah. I've met Ryan. I've had the pleasure of meeting Ryan in person once this summer. We had a great
he's
conversation.
starting up a new company called Masari. They're trying to build an Edgar database for crypto.
Yeah.
Fully, they'll disclose things like how much does the founding team have, what's their distribution schedule. All of these things matter. So he's being good cop to this industry, which is awesome.
Yeah, and he's actually somebody who writes a daily newsletter. He's somebody that trailblazed the road for me. I sort of unknowingly followed in his footsteps.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get some closing questions here from you two. Lewis, anything?
I mean, can you come back? Can you maybe work from this office sometime? like what do you do every day? Can you just come hang out with us? That's what we need. We know we're not even.
Yeah, what's the handicapper fee here? What's the
will
monthly subscription model?
I will come back as often as you guys will have me.
Well, okay, so every week, every day, if you want to come in.
Yeah, I'll be back. I'll be back soon.
We're let's just come back. Let's hang out here. We're trying to build. I'm trying to.
Team Light Switch stays late.
I'm trying to build the the smartest maybe group of people I can build. In the moment, everyone's we have a pretty good amount of people. I know Andrew's super smart, Marty's super smart, Matt Brown, he's learning. We're getting there. Just come back. Let's all come back.
I'll be
Let's
back.
come back.
I want to do a whole Barstool line of crypto apparel.
We're working on. Caleb's got some
coin.
ideas. We're thinking about doing Future Fridays. We've got some ideas in our hand.
One coin, one buy.
Future Fridays.
Everybody knows the rules.
Matt, anything?
No, I think we're good.
All right. Arjun, where can we learn more about you?
Twitter at Arjun BLJ, ARJUN BLJ, and that's it. Please don't DM me targets. But that's it.
Again, I can't thank you enough for coming into the studio. It's been an incredible perspective that this podcast was desperately in need of. Like Lewis said, we're definitely gonna have you in here again at some point. Forever, all you freaks out there, follow me on Twitter at Marty Bent. Subscribe to my newsletter, link in my bio. Subscribe to this podcast. If you have people looking to learn about Bitcoin, learn about crypto, send them this way. And if you're out there and you're looking to ask questions, my DMs are always open as well. Like Arjun said, don't ask me for targets. I'm not a trader. But yeah, we're going to end it there. Peace and love.